All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started now. So this is going to be the Google integration webinar, and we're going to walk over how to integrate call tracking metrics with Google Adwords. So I want to get started. My name is Todd Fisher. I'm one of the co-founders of Call Tracking Metrics. All right. So to get started, the topics we're going to be covering today, obviously integration with Google Analytics, conversions in AdWords. We'll talk about any of the kind of common troubleshooting, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. All right, so one of the most popular aspects of call tracking metrics service is obviously our ability to integrate with Google Analytics and AdWords. So generally speaking, this is kind of an overview of how that integration works. So the idea is people, when they click on your ads, they're going to see a tracking number on your website that when they call, we're going to match that caller to a website visitor, or more specifically, an ad click in your AdWords campaign. So that as that call progresses, we're going to be able to pass information or create an event as if it came from that website visitor in your Google Analytics account. And then, of course, once that event is in Google Analytics, then you're able to do all of the kind of neat things that you can do with Google Analytics. You can set up goals in analytics. Those goals can create conversions that can then be imported into AdWords, which allow you to do the kinds of optimizations that you like to do around your keyword bidding and your targeting. So once we get through that, obviously there'll be some common questions that and things that you want to look out for in terms of this integration, because it does span across 3 systems. All right. So let me go ahead and switch into call tracking metrics now, and we're going to go through some of the setup of call tracking metrics with respect to AdWords. So let's go ahead and talk about what does it mean to set up your AdWords integration. So let me do this. Let me actually share more of my screen so that we can look at both the presentation here, an account in call tracking metrics that's set up for call tracking, a Google Analytics an account that's linked to a live website, and of course an active Google AdWords campaign. All right. So first thing we're going to look at here is when you're thinking about setting up an AdWords campaign, the first thing you want to do is make an estimate for how many ad clicks you're going to be getting a day. You're going to want to use this estimate to determine how many tracking numbers you should purchase from call tracking metrics. So you're going to be buying those numbers under the numbers menu, by numbers. One of the places you can go in AdWords to get an estimate is under the keyword planner tool. So this if you don't have an active campaign, then you're probably setting up new keywords, and you're running estimates, and this is a great way of getting an estimate for how many clicks you may get a day based on a budget that you may currently have available. So then you're going to take the number of ad clicks you have per day, and you're going to divide that by 20, and that's going to give you the estimate for how many tracking numbers you should buy. So, for example, you'll do a search here, obviously, to determine or to get those numbers, and then you're going to go ahead and add them over here. Choose the receiving number, and in the case of AdWords, obviously you're going to want to choose Google AdWords as your tracking source, and that's going to be your preferred source, and we'll get into some of the details of that source in just a moment. Important thing about that tracking source is that you don't actually. So I guess this is actually a pretty important topic. So when you're choosing Google AdWords, the neat thing about our system is you don't need to break the campaigns into multiple sources by campaign, ad group, or keyword, because our system is tracking website visitors based on the click, all of that information, campaign, ad word, match type, keyword, any dimension of the website visitor you can really think of, we're going to have that available because we're tracking by the click, which is, some systems would call that session-based tracking. Some systems are going to call it, cookie-based tracking. But the bottom line is we're tracking a website visitor. All right, so then obviously you'll click by numbers here. So let's go ahead and head on to the next one. So linking your CallTrackingMetrics account to analytics. Obviously, this is where we're able to do some really interesting things because we're able to get data from Google Analytics as well as send data to Google Analytics. So you're going to do that over here. You're going to go to your account settings page. That's where you're going to go to the metrics integration, Google Analytics. And here you're going to see the UA code that you're linked to. This is actually the web property. The web property is going to match the website that you want to track with CallTrackingMetrics. Some interesting advanced options that we have available. Let me go through those now. I'll start with this last one. So on the website that you install the CallTrackingMetrics code, presumably you're going to have the Google Analytics code there as well. And that code may have a variety of different UA codes. So the use case here is if you want to track multiple websites, but have one CallTrackingMetrics website. We're going to actually extract the UA code associated to the website visitor, match that to the caller, and then when we send the event into analytics, we're going to use the UA code that we grabbed off of the website visitor. If this option is not checked, then we're going to assume that the web property you want to track is the one that you linked. The reason why do we have it even use a default? Well, we have a default there selected because you can also send events to people who are not visitors. In other words, we'll send an event to this web property for offline calls. Obviously, not much relevance there to Adwords, except if you're doing ad extensions. You may want to get events into Google Analytics for ad extensions so that you can look at your data in one place in Analytics. The other really cool feature here is the call sale. This third option here is great for doing true conversion tracking based on dollar transactions that may have taken place over the phone. So let's go into the call log real quick here, and we'll look at a call that has a conversion on it that triggered a call sale. So this call here from John Williams, he did a Google AdWords search for reporting calls, and after that conversation completed, the agent on the phone recorded, excuse me, the agent recorded a $3,900 conversion. So let's go ahead and talk before we get too in depth about this. Let's just talk about some of the things that you're going to want to make sure you're aware of when you're linking Google Analytics. Obviously, our system is going to require read and write access to analytics. And also, additionally, when you link your Google Analytics profile to CallTrackingMetrics, you may actually find that you get a service error. What we find is that Google Analytics occasionally will have 500 errors. And when we get those, it's actually just a common thing, and you just retry. We try to retry as much as we can on our side, but occasionally you'll see the error, and then just know that either refresh the browser or unlink and relink, and you should see that the connection is established. All right, so let's continue on here. So installing the tracking code and testing to ensure that the visitors are being tracked. So this is actually a pretty simple thing. but let's just go show you here. So the tracking code is really very simple. And actually, this is a good time for me to introduce our test website. All right. So our test website, in this case, is a website we created called WooCalls. So we've been running some ads here in the last couple of days, trying to get people to call or calling ourselves. So the important thing to know about installing the code is that you should put the code in the header tag of your website. That way, when the number rotates, most likely you won't see it change. It'll instantly change. All right. So let's go ahead and do a test visit here. So one of the ways that you can do a test visit that we recommend is to use an incognito window. So I'll open an incognito window and I'll use our test string. So you probably saw the number switch there, and you'll see I got this number 91892. And another a good thing about this test mode here is if you do the test, it's actually GCLID. So this is the Google Click Identifier, and test is actually we're going to look at test and say we're going to recognize that as a special string. And so this website visitor that I've simulated here will not be included in any calls. We actually look for that string and say, no, we shouldn't assign that visitor to a call. So in CallTrackingMetrics, though, to see if that worked, we have a special page called Reports Real Time. And on that page, you can actually see the website visitor that you tested. And so you can get all kinds of information. You can see all the past visitors here. Obviously, these are good clicks here, and this is my test visit. So you can see which numbers that visitor has seen. So let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next slide here. So yeah, I did actually peek into here already. So just to kind of recap, though, if we look at the call log again, you can see. Thanks for calling, everyone, or Brad. So you can see that in the call log here, you're going to get some interesting information about AdWords campaigns. And one of the nice things here is if you expand this out, what you're going to see is the green bar here is the website visitor, that the information we tracked. This table down here is a record of information that we extract from Google Analytics. So a lot of this information is actually being pulled from AdWords directly through Google Analytics. So I think step back a few slides. One of the important things to keep in mind is that AdWords and Analytics must be linked in order for this integration to work, because we're querying the data from Analytics, so Analytics has to have that access as well. All right. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about some things that you'll want to know about when you're troubleshooting. I just mentioned this one. Analytics must be linked to AdWords. AdWords visitors not being tracked. Yeah. Okay. So this is also a common one. Let me just show you where in the interface you'll go to set that. So let's open up our Google AdWords account. So you'll go here to account settings. All right. And in your account settings, you're going to want to make sure that this setting says yes. This has all kinds of value. Number one, it means that you don't have to manually tag your ad URLs to get information about what or where that ad came from. The other benefit is that Google Analytics can automatically understand it, and also our system is automatically going to recognize the Google Click identifiers. It definitely helps to have that turned on. So yeah, and then this last part is really important. So when you think about the tracking numbers that you're purchasing from us, if you're setting those numbers up to be displayed dynamically via our JavaScript code, it's really important that that number is only ever displayed via that JavaScript code. If you find that you purchased a number and you've assigned it to the tracking source Google AdWords, and then you're placing that same number, you're physically placing it somewhere, for example, a Google Ad extension, then you're actually misusing it. And the issue is that somebody's going to do a Google search and they're going to see that number before clicking. This means that we're going to track a website visitor, or I'm sorry, we're not going to end up tracking a website visitor, and there's going to be a phone call. This means that we're going to probably misassign data, but we're also going to have a problem where we may have too few website visitors to track. So let's continue on. Okay, so the next part of this, we're going to get into more of Google Analytics and the kind of things that you're going to want to set up inside of Google Analytics. All right. So I'll go through and share some of basically where you should be looking in Google Analytics and the things that you want to set up in Google Analytics. So let's come over here and let's zoom into Google Analytics now. All right. All right, so the tab that you're going to probably find, where you're going to find our data. So the raw data that we send to Google Analytics is going to appear under the Behavior tab here. And what you're going to find here is the easiest way to get to it is either Events Overview or Top Events. But at any rate, you'll see the events that we've sent to Google Analytics here. Default either is going to be calls, or in the case of somebody typing in that conversion amount in the call log, call sale. Primary reason that we differentiate between calls and call sale is the structure of the event. So let's go ahead and open this back up now. All right. So when we're thinking about our standard events, the structure of those events is such that we're categorizing them consistently as calls. We're using the action as the call tracking metrics tracking source. This way you could segment these calls by tracking source if you chose to. And then the event label is where we store a lot of interesting information about the call, the tracking number label, the tracking number itself, an indicator of whether or not this is a first time or repeat caller, and then a unique identifier of the call. The value is also very interesting for a call event. We're going to set that to the length of the phone call. And so let me just drill in here so that you can see what those look like inside of an active account. So in this case, you can see that we had a website call and we had 3 Google AdWords calls. So let's go ahead and drill into these. So here you can see that we had 2 first-time callers to an AdWords campaign, and we had 1 repeat caller to an AdWords campaign. We didn't set a label on our tracking numbers, so those are not set in the event label. Had we done that, these numbers would be individually labeled. Let me go ahead and show you where you would do that. If I come back over here and I go to tracking numbers, you can add a label right here. Obviously, one of the use cases for that is if you're creating more targeted campaigns where maybe you're spreading the I don't know, you want to do some kind of segmenting. So you want to say this number is targeted at the New Hampshire accounts, and this one is targeted at the Maine accounts, and this one's targeted at New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, right? And then in your analytics account, you'd see those broken out, and you can also then set up your goals to target that piece of information. But before I leave this page, let me just show you some of the secondary data so that you can see that these are linked to AdWords data. So I always like to show the keyword here, so let's go ahead and pull that up. So here you can see the ad keyword that I was running these on is reporting calls. So these were 3 calls that we got from that keyword. And then you can also look at other information that's interesting, like what was the copy of the ad. And we have reporting calls, we have woo calls. So there were 2 different distinct ads here. So let's go ahead and go on to the next part. I guess we lost our image here. Interesting. Well, that's not a problem. I'll go ahead and show you guys. So that image should have been of the goals here. So in this case, or in this account, I have two goals. And actually, an interesting thing about this is this is a good troubleshooting tip. Is that you'll see these two goals here are created, but you'll notice that in the past 7 days we've actually only had one conversion. But I was just showing you I think 3 calls that should have matched these. So that speaks to some of the delays in analytics and its ability to see the data come in and process. So in this case, this is the simplest way to set up a goal. Oh, I was just told that maybe people aren't seeing my screen. Let's see. How's that? You guys are just seeing analytics? I hear that everybody's just seeing analytics. Is there? All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause my screen and resume. Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds like we're seeing it again. So let me just go ahead and okay. Yeah, I heard somebody just had to refresh their screen. Okay. So so on this screen here, this is where you're going to set up your goals. And an important thing to keep in mind here is that for Google AdWords, the only field that you need to set up here is category, and that it should be equal to calls. Now, there's more information that we can filter on here. So let me go ahead and I believe on the next slide. Here we go. It was a transition. Yeah. So we're going to just go ahead and I'll just go ahead and talk about these individually. So yeah, as you're setting these up, the important thing to keep in mind is the distinction between equals to and regular expression. So let's say that I want to set up an event goal here that's only going to match first-time callers. So what we're going to want to do is use a regular expression on the label, and we're going to want to recall that first call was the part of the label that distinguishes whether or not it was a repeat caller or a first-time caller. So that's really important there. We could also segment even further by using the tracking source, but I don't recommend you do that. And then another condition that we could set here is time. So a lot of times you don't want to consider a call valuable unless the call lasted longer than, say, 60 seconds. But even then, that's pretty short amount of time. A valuable call is probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 120 seconds and more. So you can use this as a way of filtering out some of the noise calls that you may encounter. All right. Yeah, and then obviously one of the most important things to keep in mind is because the event that we're triggering is setting the value to a time, you wouldn't want to use that as the value for the conversion. And so by default, you'll come here and this is going to say use the event value as the conversion value, and you don't want to do that. So you are going to want to come up with a monetary value that you can set as a fixed price per call. And that's just so that when the data shows up in Google AdWords, you'll get that information. So let's go ahead and walk through here. Just got to get through these slides here. All right. Let's see here. Advanced uses for goals, menu key presses first. Yeah. All right. So we've covered all of this. So let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting. So events not appearing, verifying web property linked to call tracking metrics. Okay. So yeah. So some of the common issues that you'll find. So when you look at your website, first thing is when you're troubleshooting an account, you want to go to Account Settings, Metrics Integration, Google Analytics. Make sure that this UA code here, and then let's go ahead and open up our test site here. Make sure that matches. All right, you got to do this view source, and let's bring the source over here. make sure that that UA code that you see there matches the UA code that you find when you view source. So in other words, these are the two pieces of information that you're going to want to make sure match. If those match, then you know that our system is sending called data to the correct UA code. All right. So let's look at some of the next things that you may encounter. Actually, let me just discuss another kind of gotcha for why you may not see call data. So let's go back. Let's go ahead and discard our changes here, and let's go back to the administration page here. So one of the other common ways that data may not show up in Google Analytics is if you have filters. So if you set up a filter in your Google Analytics account or your profile here, or sorry, your Google Analytics view, then it's possible that you're filtering out the call events that CallTrackingMetrics may be trying to send to your web property. So that's another important thing to keep in mind when you're troubleshooting. Why am I not seeing these call events? Well, check filters and check that you're sending to the correct web property. Okay, so goals not completing. Verifying all fields are exactly right, and use the verify feature to check. So yeah, so this is pretty straightforward, but basically, make sure you don't have a space. So you wouldn't see that space there, but that actually is going to cause the category to no longer be equal to calls. Make sure when it's equal to lowercase c, that's not going to be equal. If you're using the label field, make sure it's not equal to first call. It actually has to be regular expression first call, because the first call appears within the contents of the label. So that's important distinguishers. And then obviously this is a great way to check verify this goal. So if you click verify this goal and you get a conversion rate, then you could be pretty confident that you've set this goal up correctly. And if you make some changes, it's good to re-verify the goal as well. All right, so moving along. So the setup in Google Adwords. All right, so we've talked a little bit about some of this already, but let's go through the setup in Google Adwords just to make sure. So obviously, we're not going to talk too much about setting up your campaign. You can tell from this account, we may get some ad clicks, but yeah, really, we're going to talk about the parts relevant to call tracking metrics. So I already mentioned it, but I'll say it again. It's important that when you're integrating with call tracking metrics, that you have auto tagging turned on. Let's see. The other thing is you're going to want to make sure that Google Analytics is linked to your AdWords account. The other important thing is that make sure that it's linked to the correct UA code. So just like the UA code has to match in call tracking metrics, it also has to match in AdWords. So you want to see the same thing in both systems. All right, and then obviously this is unfortunate, but you really want to give it time. Actually, before I get into the give it time, let me show you where you'll set up your conversions. So all right. So, so basically here, you're going to come in here and you're going to click, conversions, import from Google Analytics. So like in this case, you can see, Google's telling me it hasn't had any recent conversions. That's interesting because, you can look in this Google Analytics account right now, and you can see that there's actually been some conversions. The issue is that those conversions all happened today. And actually one of them was yesterday. So the important thing to keep in mind there is that it takes a couple of days for AdWords to start registering those conversions. Once the connection's established, it is automatic, so you don't need to worry about coming back and checking up on it. And this button actually here is going to change color when it's ready to import. All right, so let's see here. So there's another thing in AdWords that comes up that's interesting, and it's this concept of many per click versus one per click conversions. And so let me go ahead and go over to campaigns. So you're going to see that in over here. So if you're using AdWords conversion tracking code, then obviously those are going to be 1 per click conversions. If you get 1 call from an ad click, and that's the only conversion on that click, then that's going to be a 1 per click conversion. If you have multiple conversion points, then obviously things start to become many per click conversions. So, okay, and understand the difference between ad extensions. Yeah. So there's also this issue of, so AdWords provides some call tracking capabilities of its own, but they're all very much limited to just ad extensions. And so you'll actually see a calls column in here, and that's actually not going to be calls that are coming from us. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're looking at the data that is in your AdWords. Yeah. And using values for conversion. So this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier, which is, you can control the value of the conversion that we pass to AdWords, either via the call sale feature. So, So via the call sale feature here, so this is going to be the conversion amount here, or based on the fixed amount that you specified under the goal itself, the fixed amount. Yeah, okay, so this is an interesting one, and I'll kind of touch on this. So, yeah, so AdWords reports conversions from the date and time of the click. So it's really important to keep this in mind. So let's say that I've clicked on your ad. So that's going to be the conversion date and time. Now the phone call is going to not necessarily happen immediately after the click. The phone call could happen the next day. And actually, that's a neat thing about our system is we'll still be able to match that ad click back to the original visitor and that call, even if it happens the next day. And the other thing to keep in mind is that only if the call was from an actual AdWords visitor are we going to trigger, or will AdWords accept that as a conversion. And so that's going to cause this filtering to occur. But then there's another part, which is, AdWords click fraud is, can happen. And so if our system's obviously not going to be able to tell that the click is fraudulent, so it may incorrectly show them a number, and that number may get called, and then we may match it to the wrong visitor. When that happens, AdWords is going to filter those out. Which is a good thing. Whoop. We're going crazy here. Sorry. There we go. So another interesting thing to keep in mind is the duration of the different cookies. So we have a lot of different systems in play here. So we have AdWords, we have Google Analytics, and we have CallTrackingMetrics. So AdWords cookies, they can expire within 90 days. I believe that's actually a setting in AdWords that you can adjust. At one point in time, I know it was 30 days. I know that our system is going to default to a 30-day cookie. Let me just show you where you can adjust the cookie settings. So at least I'll show you where you can do that in CallTrackingMetrics. It's under our advanced settings feature, and it's under tracking script. So on this page, you can set up our cookie duration. So our default is going to be 30 days for all accounts. Keep in mind that whenever you change this, you're actually going to expire the cookie for everyone. And you can set it to 0, but I don't recommend that. It's actually going to cause the website visitor to see a different number on just about every page view. So it's not a good idea. All right. And then analytics goals completions are imported into conversions, which tracking up to 48 hours after they've occurred. This can obviously lead to a discrepancy when examining recent date ranges. So but most people are aware of that one, but it's these other ones, especially the AdWords reported conversion times being based on the click time. All right, so it's not based on the call time. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we've covered everything. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So let me go ahead and see if anybody has any questions. All right. So does anybody have any questions?
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Is this going to be recorded so we can go back through it, or accessible to be able to see?
Yeah. So the whole presentation has been recorded, and we're going to be publishing it on our website on the webinars page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Todd, we need to track how many times the form reactor is filled out.
Okay. So the form reactor calls, that's an interesting question. So form reactor calls should trigger events into Google Analytics. So they should work exactly the same as a normal call. So the great thing about that is obviously, with a form reactor, you're able to operate, form leads the same way as you do with call leads. Any other questions?
I have a more just general question. How does the system populate a new lead in Salesforce? What information does it populate with?
In Salesforce?
Yeah, is within Salesforce. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. Yeah. So actually, it's something that you can manually map into Salesforce. At a basic level, we're going to associate a call tracking metrics tracking source to a Salesforce campaign that will assign to the lead that is either identified or created by our system. And then beyond that, you can map things like the keyword. You can map the ad group and the campaign to custom fields of an activity associated to that lead.
I'm assuming the caller's information, unless that person already exists in Salesforce, there's no way to be automatically inputting the caller information, right?
Yeah. So there's let me see if I can. So this account actually happens to be a Salesforce account. So what you'll see here is that in this case, the name, when we have that available, is going to be automatically used as the information that we'll use for that lead when they're created in Salesforce by our system. Bare minimum is that we'll be having a phone number that we can assign into the Salesforce lead that we create.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can also operate. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question regarding, we've noticed from time to time that we're not getting keyword frequently for the call. And that's one of the things that we were really excited about. We're just wondering what the reason generally is if keyword doesn't end up showing up as part of a search. It says keyword not available.
Okay. Yeah, so there's Google, so the keywords that you see like in this test account here, initially when these calls hit our system, these calls would have said not provided. In fact, that's what they said. Because initially when the user clicks on the ad, the information that we have available is both the referring URL, so the information Google passes in the refer, and then the information that we have in the landing URL. In this case, if you're seeing not provided, it brings up a really good point, which is you may want to start tagging your URLs using Google URL Builder. So what's great about using URL Builder is that the campaign term, which is often the paid keyword, this is going to be automatically populated. And what that means is that you'll immediately get that keyword in our system, and it will bypass the whole not provided aspect of Google.
Okay, so you need to just start telling them what's most important to you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so there's sort of this trade-off. So you can set up a call tracking campaign very quickly and have it be very simple if you rely on auto tagging. The trade-off is that some of the information that we can get from that campaign is going to be slightly delayed. So like when will we know that the AdWords keyword? We'll know that once Google Analytics knows it, which could be 30 minutes after the call, could actually be 24 hours after the call. Google Analytics is definitely getting faster. 2-3 years ago, it would have been 24 hours for just about everything. Nowadays, it's 10-15 minutes, even sometimes 5 minutes. So Google's definitely getting faster, which is great. But they've also changed the way you can get the data. So like in this case, these calls, the organic search terms weren't reporting calls because this is a broad match. Pretty sure it's broad match. Let's just verify. Yeah, so it's broad match. So this was most likely not reporting calls. And here you can see the actual website visitor didn't pass any keyword data, or Google didn't pass any keyword data. So.
Okay. Actually, I have another question. I recently upgraded from Pro to Agency, and so I wanted to go ahead and create new accounts, which I have, but it doesn't seem like it pulled all the call data with it. Everything's still in the original account. So I've got a couple different numbers from different clients that are in the same pool. Is there any tricks to pulling all that data into the new accounts?
Let's see. So I know that there's some delays when you move call data from one account to the other. If you do notice that in that case, specific case, I recommend shooting a note to our support team. Mention the account ID that you moved it from and the account ID you moved it to, and they should be able to check on that and make sure that the data gets all moved over. I will say that if you are, so let me go to the numbers page here and just mention. If I click all accounts, so when you are moving an account or a number between an account, so let's go ahead and just show you guys. You do want to make sure you check this box. So we won't have this checked by default, and yeah, so just keep
I
that
did
in mind.
do that. Maybe just time.
Yeah, I would give it time, and I'd also send a note into support.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like I may have a question on chat here. So let's see here. All right. So is there a place where we can see how Form Reactor works? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go to account settings. So Form Reactor actually exists inside of the account settings, and it's right here. And so when you come to this page, we'll give you a brief explanation for how Form Reactor works. The neat thing about Form Reactor is that it's going to put the forms that people fill out inside the call log. So you can come here and you can create your first Form Reactor, and this actually lets you, we'll go ahead and just save this so you see. All right. I'm not going to do that right now. Actually, I see why, because I didn't have a caller ID to assign it. Yeah, that's because I'm in the test account. Hold on. Go back into Salesforce demo. So that's one important thing to keep in mind is that when you're creating a Form Reactor, you have to have a tracking number before you can create a Form Reactor. And Form Reactor is available on all plans. So every plan will have an option to set up a Form Reactor. The basics of a Form Reactor is that it's a form that you can embed in your site that will try to quickly reach a member of your sales team or a call center that can help somebody that just filled out this form. There's two different ways in which it'll engage your customer. Either it will immediately call the customer and call your sales agent, or it will first call the sales agent, and the sales agent will press 1 to acknowledge they're available, and then it'll call the customer. You can also operate it where it automatically just logs the call, because you operate sort of like an after-hours scenario where everything just gets logged into the call log. Then, obviously, you can, at your own discretion, go back to, call these people back, or however you want to contact them.
What menu is that in?
So you'll find this under account settings. So it's kind of hidden right now. It's because it's a beta product. It's pretty robust, but there are definitely some things that we will want to improve on it, specifically around how we handle, maybe agent dialing. It would be ideal if when you filled out the form reactor, maybe it automatically tied into a call queue, so that your full team could react to that form.
Okay, so like when I go in, it says please upgrade your plan. When I click into form reactor, it wants me to upgrade the plan.
Okay. What plan are you on? Are you on a starter account?
Yeah, I'm in starter.
All right. We'll change that. So just hold tight. Later today, we'll make it available to starter accounts too. Okay.
Sweet. Okay, because I want to see how it works. All right, great.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Great. Yeah, no more questions? Okay. Everyone, this was fantastic. We'll have another one of these in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have some really interesting updates to share with you in 2 weeks related to Google AdWords scripting. And look forward to hearing your feedback. And thanks, everyone. Bye.